You know, the
even
guy from
though
Waffle House, the owner, the founder, sent me a bunch of Waffle House cups and swag and caps and shirts, and as a thank you for giving us such good publicity. No way in hell I'm wearing a Waffle House cap.
hello and welcome back to the Dodger debate. I'm Jack Harris, the Los Angeles Times Dodger beat writer, joined by our esteemed columnists in their favorite place, Bill Plaschke and Dylan Hernandez. Guys, I'm in Atlanta. I haven't been to a Waffle House yet. Is any other food recommendations here?
They're not catering the press box anymore?
No,
For
it's
the
been too
record, Waffle
long.
House cleared their press box because of me last year.
I was gonna say it's been
Treated
too
me to
long since
Waffle.
you've written about it, apparently.
It was tremendous.
Like we've talked before, like this show, we don't always live up to our debate name, but I don't think that's going to be a problem today because let's see here. I got it pulled up in front of me. A week ago, Dylan writes a column titled "The Dodgers are going to win the World Series." Or order the rings and schedule the parade, I believe was the second line. And then we have a column from Plaschke this past weekend describing Tyler Glasnow's season-ending elbow injury as the start of the Dodgers' annual October meltdown. So I'll leave it up to you guys. Who wants to tell the other that you're right and they're wrong?
Explain yourself, Dylan. You went
Well,
first. Explain yourself.
yeah, look, man. See, when I wrote my column, I didn't like if you read the thing, I do not mention Glass now. I was not counting on Glass now to come back, right? I was expecting Tyler Glass now, again, Mr. Glass, right? He wasn't going to be around. They just need Yamamoto. It's Yamamoto, it's Flaherty, and the rest of it they're going to probably, right? First round, my guess is based on yesterday, Bueller. Then you get to the next round. Maybe you go Kershaw. Maybe you patch one game. I do think you can do that, like one game where you kind of have like a, opener bullpen game type of thing. They're going to be enough off days, I think, for them to be able to pull that off. I was just very encouraged. Here's the thing, right? Is like, granted, yes, it was only 4 innings, but it was the first time this year that I looked at a pitcher and thought like, huh, that looks like an ace, right? Just in terms of the way
After 4 innings.
after
After
four
four
innings.
innings, he was an ace.
Those are the best 4 innings I have seen since Pedro Martinez.
Those are his only 4 innings in the last 4 months.
Yeah, well,
He's an
he
ace.
came back a new man.
Jack, were you in the press box when he wrote that? You were, right? How
Yes.
come he
I
didn't
might have.
stop him? How come
I
he
might
didn't
have.
stop him?
I might have helped with the rings and parade line if we're being honest. Look, I mean, and
Jack,
I
it's your duty to
just
stop him. Stop that madness.
just as full disclosure here, we're recording this before Yamamoto pitches Monday night against the Braves, so I think we'll learn a lot more about where he's at after this game. But I do think, to Dylan's point, yes, if you can take that 4 inning sample and extrapolate it out over 4 weeks of the postseason, that would be really good. It's just as you kind of alluded to, Plaschke, in your column, that's still probably asking a lot from a guy who did miss the last 3 months with a shoulder injury and who again is still only 15 games or so into his entire big league career.
Well, I mean, this is the guy they saw in Japan, right? This is the guy, and I think the big thing
they
is
saw him
that,
for more than 4 innings in Japan, though.
right. No, but this is
4 innings.
to me, a lot of this was also about like the body language, right? He went out there because I think the guys come from Japan and understandably so are kind of like almost in awe of the stage, right? And I'm playing against guys that are better than I've ever, played against. You see a lot of pitchers kind of nibble. This guy, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend the home plate umpire did not help him here and there, but this guy was on the attack, right? And there wasn't, again, kind of that nibbling feel that wasn't there. This guy attacked, and I think, maybe the time off even helped in terms of like he's been just sitting on the bench, just watching these games. And maybe again, kind of the mystique of the major leagues kind of started to wear off, and because this was the guy they were expecting, right? I mentioned Pedro there, and I think that there was kind of that, a comparison that frankly I thought was ridiculous. I still think it is ridiculous, but this is more, I think, the guy that they were expecting to get, and now at this point. I mean, he's going to go 5 innings today. We'll see again, right? How what I say stands up here. But for me, it was kind of the first time again in a while that I've seen a guy, probably since young Walker Bueller, where you're like, okay, this guy can carry a postseason rotation.
Are the Dodgers so desperate that they're relying on rehab starts in September to base the World Series on?
He's the
Come
most
on,
expensive pitcher in the history of the game.
No,
they
yes,
have a one-man rotation right now, and that one man gave up what 4 runs in Atlanta this weekend, or 5 runs in 4 innings. Has worst start as a Dodger.
3 innings.
One guy, Jack, we based the whole thing on Jack Flaherty. Every year we go through this. Every year, haven't you all learned? Every year it's about pitching, pitching, pitching. And the Dodgers, they just don't have the starting pitching right now. And honestly, where it's going to come from? I just don't know how you trust How do you trust Yamamoto? So he throws 6 innings tonight.
I mean, and that to me was like a big part of it, right? Is when he got hurt, right? I mean, we knew this from the time when he came over from Japan, that he had stopped throwing the slider over there because it bothered his arm, right? And that the start before that he got hurt, it was right probably up to that point, his best start was against the Yankees. I think he threw like 13 sliders, right? It was kind of because he had kind of gotten to this point where it's like, okay, if I don't add this, my fastball doesn't play, right? And kind of again, what we saw the other night or last week was that the fastball did play, right, without him throwing the slider. And right, I think he threw 59 pitches, only one of them was a slider. So he comes out today, the command's off, all of a sudden he's getting whacked around. Everything kind of changes here. But I liked what I saw there. Again, I don't think the durability thing is as much of an issue, again, if he doesn't have to throw that slider. So I am kind of thinking, again, if you have him looking, any part of kind of like the way he did in that first start, if you have Flaherty, I think he has kind of developed a reputation of being kind of a gutsy guy. I assume he's just kind of not going to fold, the way some guys have and kind of on the big stage, right? He's not Lance Lynn. And then you also have a historically good lineup, right? I mean, I don't think we should look, you can't obviously hit your way, just completely, right, win, 10-8 games every day and expect to get to the World Series. But let's not forget how good this lineup is. They dodged the real bullet that they dodged was, Teoscar Hernandez not being hurt. I mean, I would rather have Teoscar Hernandez in the lineup than to kind of have some kind of some halfway version of Glasnow, whatever he would have been able to contribute, just because we've seen with Glasnow, and to be honest, right, I mean, we had only looked at Glasnow as kind of a health issue. But I do think that, as October neared, another thing that would have come up is, how will this guy stand up to the bright lights of the postseason? And you look at his postseason record, it's not good. So again, when I wrote that column, I didn't even mention Glasnow because I wasn't expecting him back, and B, if he did come back, I was kind of figuring he was going to be, a lesser version of himself.
I think the Dodgers always thought Glasnow had a chance to come back. They based $135 million on this guy. He was going to be their ace. He's gone. Kershaw's gone.
Maybe.
Some pitchers, all the other arms are gone. They have the only guy you can count right now, 2 years left in the season, is Jack Flaherty. And even he only has several postseason starts under his belt.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm one of the better pitching postseason. I just think starting pitching is so worrisome and it's burned them. They had great lines last year. They had great lines every year. I think you slug your way to a World Series. You cannot slug your way to a World Series. And Jack wrote it. Jack gave me the great stat. In the last decade, you need at least 2 6-inning starts in the LCS and the NLCS to go to the World Series. I don't think the Dodgers have the pitcher to get 2 6-inning starts in this guy. I don't see it.
I think this team is definitely better positioned than last year because of Flaherty and Yamamoto. Like, those are 2 guys that nobody they had last year is probably in the place those 2 guys are, assuming they get through the last couple of weeks here healthy and pitching well. I think the bullpen, can help cover some innings. And then, like Dylan said, the lineup, barring Mookie and Freddie going completely absent again, should be pretty good. The problem isn't that they don't have the pieces to win a World Series. I think it's more that it makes the margins for error so thin. You're not going to steal a game where the lineup is off or the bullpen isn't good because you had a starter go out and throw 7 shutout innings. Like, that's probably not going to happen. And to ask a team that's been pretty inconsistent this year for their standards to play 4 weeks of pretty much flawless baseball is a big ask. And it might not be an impossibility. Maybe they'll catch some breaks. Maybe they'll face other teams that have injury issues or whatever. But for all the money they spent and all the time, like all the hope they had in this roster being good enough to kind of get through in October in that way, they're back in a position where they're having to piece together a pitching plan to some extent. They're having to hope that their superstars perform like superstars in October against the best pitching in baseball. And to me, this all gets to the kind of biggest problem facing the organization right now, which is the inability to keep starters healthy, to keep your pitching staff together, and to be able to not only get through 162 games, which even with all the injuries they've done, but be positioned to then go into October with the kind of staff that can carry you and can cover for some of those other things. And this is something we've all written about. We did a deep dive on it last week about how the Dodgers have had the most injury-prone pitching staff in baseball the last four years.
That was a great story by you, Jack. That was a tremendous story.
And it's something that affects the industry at large, yes, but it's affected the Dodgers more. And I'll ask you guys, like, when you look at this problem, how much do you attribute it to things that Dodgers do, or maybe that are Dodgers specific? How much do you attribute it to just the larger trends of injury rises across the sport? And how much do you either blame the team for this? How much do you look at it as bad luck that they've encountered? Like when you look at the pitching injury dilemma that again impacts everybody, but impacts them the most, what do you make of it in terms of, again, the cost it has on their ability to be the kind of contending team they want to be when they get to this stage of the season every year?
Well, the bottom line is they never should have signed Glasnow in the first place. This all goes back to the Dodgers thinking they're the smartest guys in the room. They know better than anybody else. They can work miracles on everybody. They can't. Now, I blame mostly the fact every team has young arms that are going under Tommy John surgery. Every team has this problem. But no team signs and takes risks like the Dodgers do and giving all that money to a guy like Glasnow. And that's the whole theory of the Dodgers is they always think they know better. They're smarter than everybody else. They can do what nobody else can do. Sometimes you got to face reality. Sometimes you got to face the guys have bad arms and can't pitch. Lance Lynn, they thought Lance Lynn would be a savior last year. They just don't. They think they're the smartest guys in the room, and they're not. That's the problem.
Yeah, and here's the thing, right, is that, I mean, you kind of go down to like the minor league stuff, the player development thing, this goes back even to like when Julio Urias was kind of getting yo-yoed up and down, right? My kind of problem with the way they developed him was just kind of, okay, well, how's this guy going to learn to pitch the third time through the order if you never give him that opportunity to do that, right? Even because this wasn't just like when he was up here, this was also when he was down there, and look, so they've decided to go with this kind of high octane, just throw the ball as hard as you can, right? And guys are going to get hurt, right? The pitchers are going to be in baseball what running backs are now to in the NFL. They're just going to keep getting hurt. They're going to be getting replaced, Now, so because of that, right, they have to now go out and get those aces out on like the free agent market. And to Plaschke's point, I mean, it's 100% correct. I mean, the fact that they went out and got Glasnow, is to me just kind of right. And I've talked to people around the industry, including people that are like very kind of like pro Dodgers front office. And even that's kind of the one that everybody was kind of been like, yeah, when that happened, I was scratching my head like this guy gets injured every single year, right? And to think, and they always say, right, the best way to predict injuries is to kind of look at a guy's history. This guy gets injured every single year. There were reasons, his career highs were where they were, and then you kind of combine that, right? They kind of took like, but this to me is also a thing of just like years of neglect, right? They put themselves in a position where, and look, this doesn't even happen maybe if Ohtani basically doesn't agree to play for free, right? I mean, he just handed them a blank check. And it's like, okay, put some players around me, and so now all of a sudden, because they've neglected this problem for years, they had to go get two guys, right? And look, they went out and got the two, I mean, I still think, and this is probably like a whole different pot, right? A show on its own, whatever, but, they seem to have a fear of Scott Boras, right? I mean, they could have had Snell. I mean, look, maybe you could argue Snell's not worth $200 million, but you know what you're going to get there. You're going to get 5-6 really good innings, He's probably not going to get to the seventh, but he's going to be out there and he's going to compete and he's going to be pretty good a lot of times, but they didn't want to do that. They went for the cheaper option in this case, right, with Glasnow. And yeah, like Plaschke said, this was just a move they shouldn't have done.
All right, so let me ask you all this. Let me ask you this about a comment I wrote this week. I think the one chance they have is that if they get the overworked bullpen, gets a break, and Shohei Ohtani closes Game 7 or the deciding game of NLCS World Series, one of the two. I think they should put him in relief. What do y'all think?
I mean, my view on this has been if he gets to the end of the season in a place where he's facing hitters, which is possible, like on his current track, that's the plan, where he's looking good, where you can trust that he, can pitch real innings for you in the playoffs, I would at least keep him as an option. I don't know if I'd go into the playoffs banking on him to pitch 2 or 3 or 4 times in a series. Like that might be a lot to ask, even of a guy as talented as him, coming off of a second TJ and having not pitched competitively in a year. But again, like I can pretty easily foresee a situation where the Dodgers go into a specific game and only have like 2 or 3 relievers available, or where they end up in an extra inning game and they have to cover some length. And
exactly what's going to happen.
And I, again, I'm not a doctor, but it seems like if they can trust that the injury risk is not going to be, like if he can manage it physically and has shown the kind of performance and some of these simulated game situations that he's going to be in, then I can see a really compelling argument to at least keeping his arm active and keeping him as a pitching option in case you need it. Now, again, I don't know if I'd go as far as making him the closer and having him close out like playoff series. But again, if there's somebody who can defy these kinds of expectations, it is Shohei Ohtani. And for a team that's going to be pitching starved in October anyway, I don't think it should be out of the realm of possibility that you at least explore it as an option once you get to the playoffs and see where your pitching staff is at.
I raised the idea. Dave Roberts backed it up. What do you say, Dylan?
Yeah, so one thing is that he's not going to stop throwing even after the season ends, right? Just because of where he is kind of in his rehab thing. They want to just make sure, right? And I'm not saying he's going to be throwing like hard necessarily, but even throughout the offseason, he's not going to take any breaks. He's going to be playing catch at least all the time. To me, and this is going to be kind of like, basically, I don't have an answer, but I think it has to be up to the guy, right? It's going to have to be, when you brought up, right? Let's give you credit here, right? You changed baseball history here when you suggested that Clayton Kershaw should close out the NLDS in 2016, right? But ultimately, like they were like, absolutely not. I think Farhan said he thought you were crazy. Kershaw took it upon himself to walk over on his own, right? He made the executive decision. And I think that you kind of need, especially where you're dealing with kind of such like like a major, I mean, he's coming off like a major operation. I think it has to be up to the guy. Again, in WBC, he seemed to be more than willing to do that. In Japan, the one year that he won a championship with the Nippon Ham Fighters, he closed out the game that got him to the Japan series. So this guy's done this before. And my guess is that last year in Anaheim, there was a game, I think he hit a home run. He did a bunch of stuff. It was a game like he had to come out early, right? Because he had like an arm injury. Then he homers later to put the team ahead. Team's losing. Camera catches him later in the dugout, holding back like tears, right? This is like over like a regular season game for a team that's like 5 games out. This guy does want to win. And so I think that if he's, kind of to what Jack was saying in terms of like, if he's feeling good and he thinks he can do it, I think he will put himself in that position.
Yeah, I know the Dodgers are getting great pressure from the agent not to do this. They have to ignore the agent. They have to ignore the noise. They have to check out Ohtani's arm. If he's going to face live hitters before the end of the season anyway.
Yeah. Well, he can't be listening to the agent. Look, and I think when all this stuff happened, I mentioned, right? I mean, he has to grow up in terms of like taking control of his life. I mean, this whole apparatus around him cost him $16-17 million. Like he just got robbed blind, right? I mean, he should know that he knows, he should know what's best for him. Well, but if they're going to use him, that means like they're probably going to win the World Series, Flash. Well, because you're not going to use them if like they're going to get blown out, like you said, right? So
that's their one chance. That's their one chance to win the World Series is if they use them. That's their one chance.
Great lawyering by both of you. All right, before we get out of here, let's see. Is everybody in agreement on this? Does anyone think the Dodgers won't win the NL West?
No, they're going to win it.
No, they're going to win it.
Yeah, we'll watch tonight's game and see if Dylan's Yamamoto love is affirmed, or if we need to go like re-record this frantically tonight after some shellacking. We'll see.
Even if he gets hit, I will stand by the great Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
I will stand in disbelief and discredit and dubious. I'm dubious right now. Their chances. All right, what do y'all think right now? Are they winning the World Series? Dylan, do you
yes.
really believe that?
Yes.
Jack, no. What do you say?
No.
Right now, because right now, this as we're speaking, because of starting pitching, I say no. Now, that opinion could change if they find a miracle somewhere. But right now, as situated, no. I can't believe Dylan's a positive one of them among us.
If they find a miracle named Shohei Ohtani, basically.
Well,
Shohei
the miracle
Ohtani,
is
the pitcher.
Yamamoto, and it's already unfolding before our very eyes.
We're gonna watch. We'll all be watching.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. I know it's been a little while, but we'll get back together, I'm sure, before the start of the playoffs, and then definitely all throughout October. So, yeah, for Dylan and Bill, I'm Jack. Thanks for watching.